Hello, I'm Shari, and today we're going to be making one of the most famous Persian dishes. It's called Poloh Kalam, and we like to make it with roasted chicken. So I'm going to show you how to make this very traditional rice that's Persian style with sauteed cauliflower, dillweed, fresh turmeric, and the steamed rice, and then we'll show you how to also make roasted chicken. Okay, let's get started. This is the cauliflower. I've already washed it and chopped it. You don't want to chop it in too small of piece. You want the pieces to be kind of, you know, medium size, couple inch to 2 inches, because as they cook down, they break up. And this is the fresh turmeric root that I ground. And then this is dried dillweed. You pour a generous amount of olive oil. Let that get nice and hot. I put it on medium heat. Okay. So now that your oil is hot, you add your cauliflower. And I go ahead and pile it all in there. Ordinarily, if I was sauteing anything else, I'd break it up, but this cooks down so much, and you eventually turn it down to low heat, so it's fine to add it all and let it be piled up in there. Next, you add salt, kosher salt, and I take a good couple of pinches, fresh ground black pepper, and you actually let that cook down before you add your turmeric and dillweed at the very end. I like to add that maybe when you've got 3 or 4 minutes of cook time left. So this probably takes about 15 minutes to really cook down. You take cold water, a little more than half full, depending on how many cups of rice you're gonna make. If you're using a pot this big, and in order to get tahdig, because it takes up quite a bit of the rice at the bottom, you wanna do at least 4 cups of rice. Let this come to a boil, and maybe an hour before you start boiling your water and getting ready to cook your rice. You can do it actually as far in advance as you'd like. The longer you let your rice soak, actually the better, because it allows it to kind of expand and it becomes fluffier in the cooking process. So this is 5 cups of rice, and you wash your rice really well, just with, you know, lukewarm water, cold water. Rinse it several times to get all the any debris, just until your water runs clear. And then you fill it up with water and you add some salt and just let it soak. So mine's been soaking for a couple hours now. And once my water comes to a boil, we're gonna add the rice. So for a roasted chicken, you take a whole chicken, you pat it dry, you pour a generous amount of olive oil. And I love lemon, but you can also use lime. And just for extra flavor, I like to stuff one in there, and I like to get under the skin and stuff one right on its breast. You just kind of separate it with your fingers. Get it in there nice and flatten it out. All right. So I like to use balsamic. I just give a little splash of balsamic. Next is a generous amount of salt. Can't ever put too much salt in chicken, in my opinion. All right, this is fresh ground red pepper. Because it's freshly ground, it's this one's very spicy, this type of chili pepper. It's not, hasn't sat, you know, like on the shelf, so a lot of flavor. We like spice around here. So I'm gonna also put some garlic and fresh rosemary. All right, so before I add the rosemary, I mash up the garlic. Give this a stir. All right, one trick to not having your garlic hop all around when you're mashing it is add salt. Now, add a few sprigs of rosemary. Save a couple for decor on top, for garnish. Rather, not decor. All right, this is ready. So I like to add it again under the skin to have direct access to the meat. So this time I'm going to go from the bottom since I went with the lemon at the top. Get it all in there and rub the flesh with it. And then I take the rest and put it on top and rub that on top as well. All right, and I like to let, my chicken's been sitting at room temp for a couple hours, and I like to let it sit in this marinade for at least 30 minutes. Top it off with a little black pepper. The other day I tried this and I thought it was really pretty. It made the skin look really golden, just to put a little bit of fresh grated turmeric on there. Finish it off. All right, voila, it's ready to go. Go in the oven. Okay, so your water has come to a boil. So now it's time to add the rice. So you drain your rice that's been soaking. All right, you take it to your pot and you dump it in there. All right, so you're gonna cook that for approximately 10 minutes. And you don't necessarily have to bring it back to a boil. I put it on medium-high. And just cook it for, depending on the type of rice you have, what you're looking for is, so right now you see that it's kind of hard, So once it cooks, kind of like pasta, you don't want it to be too firm and you don't want it to be too soft. So it's just kind of like in between. So for me, it takes anywhere, depending on what kind of rice I have, I'm using anywhere between 10 to 12 minutes. So you let that cook and just periodically stir it around. And now you see this is cooked down. I'm gonna let it go for another minute or so, get some of these bigger pieces a little softer. You want these to be pretty soft because you're gonna add it to your rice as your rice is steaming, so you don't want them to be too crunchy. All right, so it's time to add our other ingredients. So here's my fresh turmeric root and my dried dill weed. So if you're not using fresh turmeric root, you can use maybe 1 teaspoon of turmeric spice. The fresh root, I use the root that's about maybe 2 inches long. Dill weed, as you see this bowl is filled up, I would say I'm using maybe 3 tablespoons. See what it looks like and decide if I need to add any more or not. And honestly, this is delicious on its own, even if you wanted to eat it as a side dish and not add it to a rice and just cook. I've done this before just to eat on the side of the protein. So good. And when I was a kid, my mom would do this. I'd come over here and steal pieces out of the pan before it got added to the rice. Alright, so I just kind of let that sit and let it go for another 2 or 3 minutes, then turn it off and let it sit until I'm ready to add it to the rice. Alright, so this has been cooking at 12 minutes and you see how your rice looks pretty cooked. It's al dente. Grab a grain, you can bite into it, squeeze it. It's not firm, it's not too soft. It's perfect. Take your pot, you're gonna drain it, and you're gonna rinse your rice really good with cold water. you want to give your rice lots of cold rinses. Flip it around and continue to rinse it. You want to do this a few times. This step is what is washing the starch out of the rice. Meanwhile, while you do this, add maybe 3 tablespoons of cold water to the bottom of your pot. Go back to rinsing your rice. That should be good enough. Let it sit there and drain for a minute. Once your water comes to a boil here, we're gonna add olive oil. You see this cauliflower is pretty much done, so you can just turn that off and just let it sit there. And you're gonna add this to the rice while the rice is steaming. Now that your water is nice and boiling, you're gonna add olive oil, and you're gonna add a generous amount. If I were to measure this, 1/8 cup. Okay, so you're gonna let that get really hot before you add your rice. All right, so now you're ready to pour your rice into the pot. Your oil is nice and hot, water's boiling. Pour it in there. See how nice and fluffy this rice is? Looks like a pillow. So you want to start off with high heat. Spread it out. Make sure the bottom is nice and spread out evenly, so you're going to get your beautiful patty at the bottom. Kind of make it into a dome shape. What's going to happen when you add your cauliflower is that you're going to put it right in the middle. So what I actually go ahead and do at this step is I just use the back of the spatula, but I kind of hollow it out, get it ready to where I'm going to add the cauliflower. I might add another couple little areas like that to let the steam escape. Give it a little swirl of olive oil. You're on high heat, so here's a step in Persian cuisine for rice. You put a cloth on the, call that a damkon. It's a cloth that traps the moisture as it's steaming, so you want to make sure you have a really tight fitting lid. And this type of rice, you do lift the lid to add this, but typically you don't want to lift the lid while it's cooking. You really want it to just steam. So you're on high heat. I let that go for about 10 minutes. You want to get that high heat so you can get the bottom cooked really well and get that tatty. So I turn on my 10-minute timer and then come back to it. Okay, so you cooked it on high heat for about 10 minutes. Then you want to turn it down to medium heat for about 15 minutes. And then what you're going to do is carefully put that cauliflower mixture right in the middle. So you're going to hollow it out. You've already kind of built a little, or poked a little hole in there. I'm going to kind of widen it a bit. So now you just transfer this in there and get it right in the middle. In the belly of the rice. So then I kind of bury it in there. What I like to do is pour a little bit more olive oil on top. Now you just let it steam a little bit longer. In this step, you turn it down to low. So honestly, you can steep it for quite a long time. Steam it for quite a long time. I turn it to low, and I let it go for a minimum of another 30 minutes. So this rice overall takes about an hour. So you have to prepare accordingly. But if you want to even let it go longer, it doesn't hurt it if it's on low, just to let it go. And that's it. And then we'll show you the final step when it's ready. Here's our final product. The bird is out, and look how beautiful she is. Nice and golden and scrumptious looking. So it's been cooking on low. I let it go for about 30-35 minutes. So at this point, you just want to mix it up really good and get all that cauliflower mixed in there. Alright, so I think it's ready to serve. Get that blended really well. Here's our favorite part. Tahdig. Look at that. Perfect. That's beautiful. When we were children, this is the piece that we'd fight over. This is the part of the rice that everyone loves. Bah, 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 as we say in Farsi. Eat it up. Yum, yum, yum. Voila. And here's the final product. Our beautiful roasted chicken and our Poloh Kalam with perfect tahdig. And in Persian cuisine, we always have our fresh herbs. And today we have basil, mint, and some scallions. And we're ready to go. Ready to dig in. Enjoy.